Okay, so hi everybody. I'm super happy to have you here. And with me today, I have one of our client mamas, Kensie, mama to Finley, who has just turned 9 recently. And so what she's going to do is share with us a little bit about her personal story. And so what I think is just really powerful is when we talk about kids with dyslexia who have maybe struggled for a period of time before and they've really made some massive gains and growth and their life is different because of it. And I think that those stories are inspirational and I think that it's just awesome and we should share those all the time. So she's agreed to share Finley's story with us today. So good morning, Kensie. Nice to
Good
see you.
morning.
Awesome. Would you mind just kind of sharing with us a little bit of background on Finley? Like, what did it look like before? When did you find out? What kind of things had you tried? Like, what was her journey?
We found out when she was in the end of her first grade year, probably like with 2 weeks of school left. She was in public school. They finished the testing and then they brought us in for the ARD meeting and they said, hold on one second. They're jumping on the trampoline. Hey guys, to the bedroom, please. Sorry.
Totally okay.
We homeschool now, so they're home. So the end of her first grade year, they just said she has dyslexia. Go through your summer normally. We're going to bring her back in and we're going to put her in the special education program. We are going to pull her from regular classes, anything regarding reading, writing. And then they have a program that they do with them in Texas. I'm not sure what it's called. And so we had really high hopes. We were like, okay, we found this, we're gonna fix it. We went through all of second grade year, and then at every meeting, at every interval, they just kept saying, be happy, she's making progress. But she was not anywhere near her peers, not making substantial progress. They just kept reiterating, like, she's making progress. That's all we can ever ask from her. And they basically just said, she will never, everything from like reading well, spelling, writing. At the end of her second grade year, they pulled us in and they were like, yes, she's still really far behind, but it's okay. Don't worry. She made progress over and over and over again. Well, I had just gotten her little journal and we looked through it and we couldn't even read anything. Nothing. And so that's what set me and my husband on this whole, like, we showed it to the school and they were like, oh yeah, not super concerning. She's dyslexic. Like, what do you expect? And so we were like, no, this can't be right. And one night it was so odd. I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I was just doom scrolling on the socials. And I saw something pop up from y'all that was an example of like what a kid had written versus what they wrote at the end of the program. And I was like, sold. I was like, okay, well, if anything, I can like that sold me. That one picture on social media at 2 a.m. And then I set up the call to meet with y'all and to talk to y'all. And then I listened to like two mom stories, kind of like this. And I
Yeah.
was like, so there's hope.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
this isn't her future of just always saying no. Like,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I thank you for talking about that because I think that a lot of people get that story where it's like, yeah, we're lowering expectations. We're going to want you to just accept that this is going to be the new normal for you. So whatever you had hoped for her, whatever your dreams were, that, her accomplishments or her life or her achievement, like we're just going to now help you to achieve a different result and
Mhm.
be okay with that. And so will you talk a little bit about how that process sat with you? I mean, like, what did you want for her? What do you want for her? And how was that maybe in contrast to some of the messaging that you were getting?
Oh, it was gut wrenching. I left her last ARD meeting at the public school and I just called my husband, or he was there with me, and I just sat in the parking lot and cried. I said, this can't be, like, I know her. She's bright, she's brilliant, she's not anything less than anybody in her class. She's just behind, but they're not, everything that they're doing isn't making the leaps towards what I know she could do. It like I cried and we cried and we prayed and we were like, why is this happening to us? Like, why do we have all these struggles?
Yeah.
Because it was really, really, really hard to hear that there's something wrong with your daughter. But then after all the research that we did and the books that we've read, like there's nothing wrong with her. She just learns differently and sometimes better than even
Yeah.
normal, you know? And so we were just excited to find you to hear a different message that says things can be better. Maybe not perfect, like as in her spelling, but like she can write. Like we just knew they told us like, don't worry about the handwriting. We were like, she has to like write a thank you note. She has to write a grocery list. She has to be able to function. And I know lots of dyslexic people who function. So like, why are we hearing no, 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 when obviously there has to be a way? But we were told there was no way. This is norm. That's the rest of her life. And then hearing from you was the
No,
exact,
there's a hopefully.
this isn't norm. Like it is, you know what I'm saying? We just needed that. We just needed a glimmer of hope. And then we decided to put in the work and just do it. Oh, are we frozen?
A little bit.
Oh, I think I'm frozen.
Can you hear me okay? How's the internet, Kenzie? Can you hear me
Okay, is
okay?
that better? Okay, now
Yeah.
I'm back.
No,
Sorry.
that's totally okay. We'll edit that. It's no big
Okay.
deal. It's no big deal. But I mean, what I heard you say is like it's just heart-wrenching, right? Because as a parent, you want the best for your child. I mean, I've got two kiddos, and I know for myself, like I have the highest hopes and dreams of who they are going to be, and like who they could become and the lifestyle that they could lead for themselves. And like anytime that you get this message that like, nope, there's really not hope, there's really nothing we can do about this, it's just going to be the way that it is, and about time that you accept that, is
Yeah.
just it's not only poor for the human spirit, but it's like not great for this really bright child to then have a lesser expectation. So I think what I heard you say is like you really had to step into this position of advocacy. Like, will you talk about the moment where you realize like, okay, so it's not going to be the school that overcomes this. Like, if I'm going to do this, I kind of have to take this role. Like, was that hard for you, or when did you realize that that was going to happen?
At the end of her second grade year that summer, my husband and I, we were like, we found your program and we were like, it's either, we basically looked at each other and said like, what if? What if we don't try and then things just continue to be the same? Or what if we do? And what if it is like life? Like, yes, it's a commitment. Yes, it was very hard. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be hard. It was really hard. But like, what if? And so the moment that I realized is when I broke down that day and I was like, there has to be more.
Yeah.
I'm not going to settle for her. Like everything I want for her is like a bright future with like a I don't know, a budding career at something, whatever she wants to
Yes,
do.
of
I don't
course.
even care. But like I'm tired of the stigma and the putting her in a box and making all the expectations way less. And I said, no, I'm not
Yeah.
doing this. I had a teaching background. I taught for a while. I got my master's in education, but when I decided to homeschool, that was really hard too. We love the school. We live in a really small town. The school is great. For kids who are not neurodivergent. But for her, it was really hard to pull her. But then when we pulled her, we started noticing small changes in the one-on-one that we could give her with this program. Oh my gosh, like just
Ah,
leaps of like, there were times that it was really hard
yep.
for their brains to like go through everything that we had to do. And it was hard to watch her struggle, but I'm
Yeah.
glad at the end of the journey, I'm glad I got to be with her through all that.
Yeah.
And then to see the excitement of her at the end, like now, which,
Yeah.
it almost took us a whole long time.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Homeschooler.
So let's talk about the data so that you know, so that people know kind of what the situation was. And so when we met, the phonological awareness test that we did had her at like 50% accurate, meaning that like every other word was a miss for her. You know, what we were asking or what the assessment was asking was, you know, here's this word, Finley, like locate this sound, pull it out, put the word back together. Can you do that? And so that mental Olympics was really, really
Torture.
difficult for her.
Torture.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
worst. That was the most mind-opening thing because we'd never seen that test. And so when we gave it to her, and then we gave it to her brother, who's a year younger than her, and he
Yeah.
got him all right. And we were like, this is hard. This now
Yeah.
we see it and we
Yeah.
hear it, her struggle.
Yeah, and it, you know, like people don't necessarily realize that it's this visual and auditory system and the marriage of those two things in order to read and spell. Like you have to be able to connect those things together in the brain in order for that to be successful. And so then it looked like her reading score was at the fourth percentile and her spelling score was at the fifth percentile, meaning that like out of kids her age, she was reading better than 5 out of 100 of them or 4 out of 100 of them. And so, you know, she had a more severe case of this. And so when she was doing the work in second grade and you know you guys were trying to get a different result, like would you say that that shifted much from where she was? I mean, would you say that she started second grade about there and kind of finished second grade about there?
Oh yeah. Like the growth was so minuscule, so small. But they were like, we're growing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
not enough.
Yeah.
Not
Yep.
enough.
Totally get that. So, what I think is really awesome is that she went from having half of that test incorrect to being 93% accurate. So, we really massively reorganized, you really massively reorganized how she was hearing and responding to language. And then, you know, to shift from that to the 19th percentile in reading and the 19th percentile in spelling is like standard deviations beyond where she was at the beginning. So will you tell me like from a mama standpoint, like what did that look like in real time? What kind of behaviors did you see shift? Like what seemed to be different for her?
The hugest thing is the fact that in the beginning of the year, because she was always told like you'll never, she was like, I can't read. I can't. I'm like I now when we go to Target, instead of looking at toys, we look at books
Awesome.
and you'll catch her. Like I have pictures on my so many pictures on my phone of her just reading in random
Cool.
places, like books. And I'm this because I was an avid book reader. I think I read every book in our library because we go to a really small school. And so for me, like I knew how much I love that. And not that I wanted her to love reading, but I wanted her to find a love for and I like I've always told my kids, once you can learn how to read, you will be a lifelong learner. Nobody can tell you anything. You can read it on your own. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted that for her to be able to have that independence
Yeah.
apart from just being told stuff. And so to find her reading, that was the biggest shift. And the notes that we've got, oh my, I have them all around my house. We went from like looking in her journal to not being able to read anything because she's mirror dyslexic. So she writes stuff backwards and not correctly at all. But like I have notes and I save them like that says, I love you, mom. And everything is spelled correctly. And it's written with spaces and capitals and I can read it and it's in writing. And so like I save them and they're all over my house. And like that's the kind of stuff that just sealed the deal for me. Like, oh my gosh, like she can write
Yeah.
me a note and I can read it.
Yeah. And you know, I think the thing that's really awesome to know is that once you've actually kind of reorganized how the brain is functioning for language, you can hear the sounds in words and you can sound symbol match. So, you know, before where it was a miss for her to try to write something and maybe she would add a letter or omit a letter or maybe even an entire syllable, like, would you say now that she's got a much better handle on how to match the sounds and symbols and that she's producing the language, or like what does that look like for
I
her?
would say she's perfect other than spelling phonologically instead of spelling correctly with rules.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
like when we read her notes like from, she would put FRUM, but I'm
sure.
like, hey, we went from like not being able to write that or hear that or just put FM for from to
Yep.
FRUM, but now
Yep.
we just tell her because she writes to and from a lot. Now she's memorized, oh, FROM. But
Yep.
perfection in reading, spelling is just phonologically, she spells phonologically instead of.
Yeah, and that's the next stage of development. And not everybody knows that either, that, spelling by sound is the first developmental stage. And so getting a child who is not hearing and responding to all of the sounds to actually be doing that and representing all of those accurately is phase one. Like we want to make sure that the brain is able to do that. And then once that's underway, then yeah, absolutely. You can keep learning the spelling patterns and keep growing in all of those pieces. And so that's like the next horizon for you guys. But tell me more about the reading. Like when you say perfect, what does it look like for her? Like how would you say that shifted from, like you said before, she didn't do much reading, or
No,
tell me
in
more about what that looks
school,
like.
I don't know if all public schools are the same, but they go as a class to the library and they get to pick books. Well, our books are separated by like symbols, so apple, banana. Well, she knew that she could only pick out a certain one, which was on like a pre-K kindergarten reading level. And her classmates were at mid second grade, end of second grade. And so she'd go as a whole class and they would say, no, you can't get that. You have to go get the baby, but basically like Sam ran fat, like those kind of books. And all her friends are on like Junie B. Jones. And so going like seeing her desperation in that and her sadness spurred us along more because I'm like, oh, when the awareness switched is when we were done. When she became self-aware and said, what's wrong? Like, why can't I get books like my friends? And then now,
Yeah.
you gave us passages that were like first grade, second grade. She can even read the fourth grade passages,
Yes.
the super, super long words.
Great.
Woo, like, but even I'm like, hold on, I know that by sight. The words she kind of, messed up on a little bit, but other than that, like we read it fluently and she can even comprehend like, so after she reads something, I can ask her questions about it, third grade, fourth grade reading passages, and she can answer back.
Amazing.
So so now she just, she reads Junie B. Jones on her own.
Amazing.
She reads and we're going to keep working and you gave us the awesome reading technique where we read together and we just keep growing. And
Huh?
today, the first day of homeschool, we do phonics, huge giant packets of phonics. Like she did it all on her own and missed like 2 things.
Amazing.
So I'm like,
What's that
wow.
like for you as a homeschool mom? Like imagining that you might have been at that space before, because I think that there are a lot of people that have had the same journey where they might have been in a school and then like this is discovered and they realize that the system doesn't always support a child with this diagnosis. And so like, could you imagine what homeschool might have looked like then had you not done any kind of support for her? Like,
Oh,
let's just say
it
it
was,
would be
it was
like, what would
terrible.
homeschool have been like you for
Yeah,
that?
it was so, and I fully understand that schools can't give one-on-one, and that's what these kids need. And
Sure.
like, man, I wish there was more advocates for this. Like, if each kid could get that one-on-one time, oh my gosh. So in the beginning of homeschool, it was rough because I tried it during the summer because I was a teacher. You know how you try like pre-K stuff with your kids?
Of course.
It just didn't work, and I just thought like, oh crap, like, ooh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. And then when we found out she was dyslexic, and then the reason that we pulled her was to start this program, it was kind of like an excuse, like, hey, I can't do this with her after school because kids are tired after school.
Yeah.
They go for 8 hours, they get home, they eat, and they want to go to bed or play for a little bit. And so I said, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. That's what we're
Yeah.
gonna focus on. And I'm so thankful that I had this year with her to one-on-one. I think the one-on-one is what set everything off. And me as a mom being able to see her struggles, her fears, but then see the triumph at the end. But like, because we wanted to quit probably like 2 times. It was
Yeah.
hard. There were
Yeah.
there were spots that were hard.
Yeah.
That like I could see her brain just not getting something. And then you and your team just kept saying, just keep going. And I'm like, we've been doing this for weeks.
Yep.
Nothing's changing. Like we're not getting it. Like what are we doing wrong? And you just kept repetition. And so we did it. And then
Yay.
something would click one day and I'd be like, oh my gosh, okay, we can go back. Woo!
Yeah, but I think that that's real. And, if you're going to do it, you have to accept that there are going to be moments in any journey where you're trying to make a change, whether it's a weight loss change or it's like an eating diet change, or it's like I'm trying to massively make a change in the way that my child's brain hears in response to language. But that journey is a journey for a reason. Like it has its typical ups and downs. And so I think as long as you're committed to your why, I mean, everything about you was committed to, like, I am so certain of why we need to do this, and I'm not giving up because it's too important. And so as
Yeah.
long as you have that, then you can overcome and persevere. And then there's coaching and support and other ways that you can get some help and know that that's a typical journey, but it's worth it. I mean, like, from your perspective, having the ability to see that change yourself, as opposed to like maybe, and I get it, like you could have sent her to a tutoring place once a week or those types of things. Like, how would you say that this was different from if you might have done that?
Fulfilling. I like that we tried tutoring places. They didn't ever really produce anything. So I can't imagine anything else working. Like I know y'all say that and people do other programs, and this one, as an educated person, I understand why it works.
Mhm.
That's the second bit that got me onto this program, is like I understand the why and the how it's going to work. That's what kept pushing me through, is because y'all were very good about it. In your videos before each module, you would say, this is why we're doing it, this is why it works, and then it made sense to me, like why. And so, man, getting to see her each month and getting to see her now, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
can we just keep doing this like every year? Like, just keep this growth. Like, what's next?
Yep.
What comes next? We'll do it. We'll tackle it. Now that I
That's
know that it's
awesome.
possible and the hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's the critical piece, is that, somewhere in there, that you have to believe that there's something greater and that they deserve that. And so you
Yes.
figure out all the things that you need to figure out in order to make that happen, but it's worth every second of it. So I appreciate you being here to share your story. And I'm just so, so proud of you guys in Finley for the growth that you've made, but also for tackling that, to say this isn't going to be the way that her story goes, and we're going to shift and rewrite how this looks for her, because
Yeah.
now she's on a different path.
Oh, I hope that she can look back and say, even though that time sucked, like, I'm glad you did that for me. And I'm glad we put forth the sacrifice to
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
we're so thankful for you and you
Oh,
having a desire to help kids like this, because that's few and far between. Like, they're not, I don't know statistically how many kids have dyslexia, but they kind of just get pushed along and brushed under in regular systems. And I wouldn't have known what to do because I wasn't well versed in that. And so
yeah.
now, man, I'm thankful, super thankful.
Well, we're grateful to have been a part of your journey. That's absolutely for sure. So again, I thank you for being here, because I guarantee you that you're going to inspire somebody who can resonate and like say, oh yeah, I completely understand, because we're in that same exact place. And I think just to know that there is hope, that there's a different something that you can do that can massively shift what it looks like. And it doesn't have to be years and years and years and years of struggle. Like, you can massively shift how this goes for your little person. So thank
Yeah.
you again for
Yes,
being here. I
ma'am.
really appreciate it.